Okay, and welcome back. So what I want to do now is to show you some examples of my gestures, and by no means is this an exhaustive kind of review. What it is just to show you some examples, and then certainly look at other artists' examples of gesture that are working in a more traditional figurative way, at least for this particular lesson and exercise, and get a lot of different points of view. Also, we'll look at and draw together, or you can watch me draw, and I'll just demonstrate quite a bit of more gesture drawings to show you what it is that I'm doing here. So just take a look at this page here with different gesture drawings, and some of these are quicker, some are a little bit longer. This one here these are really quick, about maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes into about 3 minutes or so. And what you notice is they all try to get at the spirit of the pose, the kineticism of the pose, and without copying the model. Some of these get a little bit more detailed, but there's nothing here that is extremely detailed. Detail is not really a part of gesture. The action or the fluidity, the spirit again of the pose is what we're after. You do notice there is some contour line manipulation going on where I get a little bit darker in areas of emphasis that are important, that I certainly want as well. And then a little bit slightly different approach, different model, a larger, thicker model, but same kind of feel and approach to the idea of gesture. These are probably about 3, maybe 4 minutes, and then another page or 2. So even when you put, and these are all digital sketchbooks, by the way, so when I'm not drawing traditionally with sketch paper and pen for gesture or any other material, I'll do some of these digitally as well. Just get to save paper, which is really kind of nice. But think about placement. You could do 3 or 4 at a time. I think the size of this page is, if I printed it, would be 12 inches by 15 inches. So these are about 3 inches high or so. So they're about 3 or 4 minutes in duration. And all of these give you a good example of my gesture approach, which is, again, to simply find the longest lines of action, and through that process I'm looking at scale and proportion of forms to one another, but also through the entire page in terms of composition, which we'll get into at length a little bit later from now. But again, I wanted you to see some examples before we get started a little bit further. So let me pop this up so we can get going. I just try to make a large scroll, in that way I can just go down as I'm drawing. So it works out to be a pretty good way for me to at least do things here. So let me bring this up a little bit. Should have already done that, but that's all right. There we go. Maybe a little bit bigger. You can see that. Let's see. Okay. All right. One down. Okay, so let's bring this over and let's take a look at some images here. So again, we're going to work through some art historical images, and then on to some live photographic images as well. So, okay, so let's take a look at some of these figures. I'm working again in obviously the Wacom tablet, and I've got kind of a brown ink going here as well. So I'll start with the figure on the left there, and we'll just start to look at the spirit of this pose a little bit. I'll start with the head. Kind of map in the oval, start to get the body laid in. The longest line of the body, and I'm really looking down now, working inside out, looking at the knee, up to the leg and through there. And she's pretty girthy and thick. I haven't done any kind of outlining yet at all. I won't really heavily outline, not looking at any detail. We're just looking at action of the pose. Kind of get the breast line. Notice everything is tilted downward. Her head is pushed back. Nose line a little bit. could start to feel just some of the essential details of what I just need from action. When I mean detail, I mean just the essential forms moving through her. Lima bean squeezing. Look at that squeeze or emphasize that contour line just a little bit. Get the girth, a little bit of her thighs coming down. Calf and so on. And a little bit in to her other calf and through here. So again, I'm trying to find the essence, movement of the pose. Look how the shoulders move in that direction. You know, it's not about detail. It is about movement of the forms through, and the arm through and here and up and over. Maybe a little bit of hair coming through. And let's go on to the other figure here. So coming through. Turn to the side, kind of get the side plane of the head a little bit. So her movement, her longest flow. Look how flowy she is, and look at that Lima bean really kind of come over. This is typical Rubens Baroque, Flemish genius of drawing. That Lima bean right in through here, and the buttock too as well, really pushed over. And then he gives us slight bottom view of the split of the buttock, then he comes back over, and she really kind of turns into a mermaid right in through here. I've seen this painting at the Louvre. It's just, it's huge, mural size painting. She kind of turns into a sort of a fish-like form in through there. And so again, you know, I'll connect the two. The arm comes across, the hand comes across and through there. And then we get this spirit of gesture through here. Just kind of indicate the spheres of the breast form. Here's the center of the form coming down and over. And the arm locked in with the other figure. And let's see if I can get him in. Yeah, we'll get him in through here. So, you know, I could start kind of where his elbow leaves off, right in through here, up and over. Or her, excuse me, and flows through. Here's the rhythm of the arm coming through. So it's all about, I should probably have this a little higher, so I'll just make this a little higher because the head needs to be a little high. So again, I just adjust as I need to on the fly. And I guess the way I have my pen nib set up, it looks like a little bit like Conte crayon color, but the way it slides across the paper looks a little bit more like it's a thicker tip and not quite pen, which is kind of like I'm using the side of a Conte, almost like a Conte crayon, which is fine. Depends on how you want your pen nib to go. So I've got the back. See how the back moves through like this and it splits the buttock. That's the center of the buttock. And see how the buttock is really kind of just a blocky, ovally kind of form. And I'll just indicate that movement. This leg moves in this direction. And then we move this leg in this direction. So I'll get the inside movement. I'll look to the inside, and then I might find just the perimeters of that leg really, really quickly. Then it starts to fade off. Side plane of the head a little bit. And then her arm comes up and over, and then sort of comes around this pole here. Like so, kind of down like so. Like so. So that's our first image, just feeling that gesture through. So if I had to go back and say, okay, where is the initial sort of beginning line through all of this? This is important to see that I can eliminate all even this minor detail. Look where her initial flow. I can get you to start to see that in this flow here, this flow up to the shoulders, which is brought on to the arm too as well, and down through the leg. That beautiful rhythmic flow, and look how this connects together here to the head, and then this Lima bean really contracting here on this, where I'm drawing the red here, up and through. And so if I can get to make your drawings much looser, so those of you that are designers out there, and we have a lot of designers, use this as a way to help you with letter forms and drawing letters. So it's meant to loosen you up. It's the most difficult part, I think, of drawing the figure is the action. And I do think that also it is, once you start to master some of these basics, it makes other parts of your drawing or drawing practice easier, meaning that when you start to go back to drawing maybe simple letter forms, or you're a product designer, you have such a stronger command. It's like, hey, this is actually a lot easier than it was before, because now I've been drawing the figure for so long, which is pretty difficult, and I've got that mastered a little bit. Okay, let's take a look at this this flowy figure. So I'll start to get in the oval of the head. Everything in this pose is really pushed this way, right? She's really pushed in this direction. It's really, Rubens is really pushing over there. So if I had to do it in one line, there's that one line that I would think about that pose. If I had to say in one line, what would I do with that pose? Well, that would be what she would be doing. And so we have just the indication of the eye line, just some symbols here underneath the chin maybe. So I spend a little extra time on the head, and then let's get into a little bit of the action of the pose, moving her through here, her center line underneath the breast, the belly button's pushed over, and then this becomes the bottom part of her pelvic abdomen region, right in through there. And then look how twisted she is. Here's her lima bean, sort of right in through here. So we get her, the long part of her pose coming through. The pubic region is discreetly hidden and through here. Then we'll start to move over. Through here we've got the length of the leg, nice action through here. And then look at that beautiful curve of the tibia and fibia. It's slightly foreshortened and underneath in shadow. There she is there. And then the really nice strong curvature of the foot here. We could get that, and then we'll come on down. The knee, the right knee is a little longer, and the tibia and the fibia move to the leg, very curved. Torque, we talked about that with the bones. Torqued a little bit over too as well, leg in through there. And then she's reaching, pushing way over. Reaching in through here and up, in through hand, about right in through there, and then arm. Sort of slightly covering over the soldier's shoulder. It was a tough one right in through there. So arm right in through there. So let's go and give this a little bit more liveliness, and just a little bit more slight definition with respect to action. Not a lot of volume, just continuing on this flow of line in through here. I don't want to make this stiff. I don't want to make this transition from the elbow to the forearm very stiff. It's very fluid and kind of like spaghetti or sausage. And that's what we're looking for, is balance, fluidity, scale, and proportion. So as I'm working out my design problem with my action, I'm thinking about scale and proportion. And if I miss it, if the pelvis was way down here, I just bring it up, draw a little bit darker, or erase a little bit. I don't erase much, but I know some students can. It's okay. It's okay. Make a lot of mistakes. Make a ton of mistakes. Make your mistakes and learn from them, like I did. The biggest difference between me and my students at NKU, or anybody out there in internet land, or wherever you're watching, far as away as Kyrgyzstan or far away as Ecuador, wherever you're at, Indonesia, I'm glad you're watching, and make your mistakes. Don't worry about it. Do many drawings and enjoy the process, and you just get better by doing. A lot of doing makes for a lot of good practice. My goal is to try to get you to find some tendencies that you do and just see if you can get better, and so you don't repeat some of the same maybe bad habits. I think that's important. So we'll get a little bit of this cloth flowing through. I'll go a little faster here. You can draw with me or slow down, or you can just watch or go on to another video. It's okay. No big deal. So leg in through here so I get that action. Look at that long sweep right in through here. That plane of that leg turning over. It's really important. Look at that nice long sweep, and look how he really curves this out right in through here. Here's that bulge of the calf. It's like almost like a ball, like an oblong ball. And through here we come on down, through here, come on down and through here, and then the leg wants to, the feet want to do something kind of like that in our gesture. And then we'll pull this cloth over a little bit further. And then we'll pull her leg. Her leg is coming from way up here all the way over. In through here. And so, this adds a little detail, but it's not very detailed. It's not too volumetric, meaning that it's not too terribly 3D yet. And we'll get into that at a much later date. But mastering action is extremely important. So, if we had to go through one long line, look how elegant she is right in through here. Very elegant, beautiful rhythmic pose of the model coming on through. So that's the action, or the most simple way to read that figure is right there. Really long, beautiful, and lean. Okay, let's go on to another one. Actually, I could go back, and there's a baby on there that's pretty cool. Won't we get this baby? We'll draw this infant or child, young child actually. We'll work on this young child. So it's kind of moving in the same direction, a little bit more upright. So I'll start to demarcate the head to here, curved under like so. A little bit of the eye in through there, a little bit of the twinkle of the nose, a little button nose, the cheek, and through there. Not a lot of detail. Moving through the arch of the lima bean, the abdomen, torso, ribcage, pelvic region, to get to here, get to the buttock. Look how far over the buttock is. Pulled in through here, up through the back in through here. And we'll pull out a little bit of the arm in through here, tucked over. Like so. A little cherubic sort of figure. And then this line helps me flow through the leg. Right through here, I'll mark where the knee is, and I don't see the rest of the leg. The foot, I'll just kind of make it up. It's probably going to be something kind of like this. In through here. And this leg moves over. The knees are about the same height. I'm going to make this one just feel a little bit longer or higher. And then move this foot kind of down in through there. And let's give him a little, of course he's got wings in the back. Why not? Let's put those in. Got through there. So we'll work through. We see the lima bean right here. I'll make it a little stronger so you'll see it. Rib cage, abdomen, right. Which side is contracting? We know it's the left side, right? Because it's squeezed here and expanding on the right side, so it's contracting on the left side. Pubic region in here, then we'll kind of bring the leg down. See how I'm really wispy with my outlines? I don't make my leg outlines really strong like that. Ooh, it's too heavy. We're not ready to be definitive yet. We're ready to explore the form. Feel the form if that's the way you want to say it. Explore it, feel it, discover it if you will. but we don't want to outline too harshly. We're not ready to be so definitive because we can sort of think through our volumes and solids, and then we can get a little bit more defined, and then we want to put our light and work our edges in value, and then we can get more defined, but then we want to keep your contour line pretty varied and moving. And then lastly, his arm. I forgot his arm up and through here, hand kind of right in through there. This arm moves in that direction. So he's a pretty cute little figure. Let's go on. Keep moving on here. Okay, let's do a few of these figures. Let's take on, we'll work from top left, the three figures here. Let's work on this figure here. So again, I'll start with her head through here, this kind of oval, slightly tilted side plane of the head, hair bun, just a little touch for the eyes right in through there, just little symbols. And she moves in this direction. This will be a little smaller. Here's the lima bean forming through here. She really moves here. Her arm moves over like so. Her back side, you see a little bit breast forming through there. She's really pushed and sliding over belly button, fat, tucked flesh, and through here, and then pubic region slightly hidden for discretion, and through here, and then we bring the leg down. Foot coming down and out like so. Sometimes I'll just leave the leg like that in a very quick gesture. Sometimes it's just enough. Just the action line itself, kind of an elegant toe point, that might just be enough in a smaller drawing. Again, suggestion, scale, proportion, the suggestion of detail can be more sexy or sophisticated or better than the complete definition. Overdrawing is a problem that students have in the beginning, and that's something that's not easy to correct. So we'll bring the other figure over. So compositionally, what I'm trying to do is kind of copy that or analyze it. So they are in a triangle. So from here, right at the top apex, and then if I did the action of the entire scene, which is a good lesson in itself, the bottom figure sitting here, she's moving over, and then the top figure is in this direction. So they all have a flow kind of this way, and then she's coming over that way. So you can not only have action and gesture from one figure, but really an entire composition. And so the more you do, the more you begin to kind of get that. So I'm going to start from her hands over here, and then up to the shoulder, to her head. I try to get to the head relatively quickly, as fast as I can, best I can. Unless, of course, I don't have a head in the composition. Sometimes that happens. So moving down her lima bean, her abdomen form, look at that curve. Look how he really takes you on a journey. Look at this curve he draws. Look at that curve he draws. Wow. And then he brings you sort of around the round part of her buttock. We'll just give a little expression to that. We don't want to get detailed. Here's the action of the knee down through the ankle, the foot, and then on over. The other foot's kind of covered. It's got some kind of clothy thing. It's hard to see right in through there. And I'll give a little expression to both the thigh, like so, and the hair, like so, a little bit there. And let's work on the other figure. So to kind of locate them together, this is why action is so important. So if I started with the head and started outlining, I might not be able to get up to her hand. So I start with her hand, just an oval that helps me to place her in relative positioning close to one another. Here's her hand, here's her head, in through here. Slight indication of the nose, and we're looking slightly above her, like so. So she's kind of a box at the top. Then we kind of go down, like so. We'll feel her forms through, buttock coming through here, leg in this direction, kind of up and over. Then she kind of gets caught up in, looks like that's water. And then so I'm going to sort of imagine this leg to come through here, and then the foot kind of comes up there. Just a quick triangular symbol for the foot. And then her arm comes down, elbow about right in through here and out. I'll make that a little darker so we can see that. You can see that through. Breast forms over here. And then the arms up to the hand, and she's in decent space. You know, just to give a little effect, I'll throw a little of what is this, cloth or wave or whatever that is. And so now we've got this triangular position of these gestured figures in our composition. It seems complex, but if you take them all as a whole, as sort of this triangular system here, and then break them down one by one, you can manage a composition. And again, that's what gesture does for you. It takes all this complexity and it simplifies it into a much more manageable way of looking at the model. Now, you can draw with contour line exclusively, but it takes so much longer. And that's a particular cool look, just contour line. But again, if you want to work more rapid and more accurately without, I don't know, having to think so much, I think that our gesture approaches that we've developed through 600 years. I mean the greatest artists of the Renaissance, the Baroque, and on forward. So I'm going to start here with her hand and move my way down. Then I feel like her head would start about right here. And I say feel. What I really mean by that is visually perceive it. So right in through here, a little flow. Everything can be reduced to a linear flow, even straight lines or blocks. So the head in through here, maybe we'll wrap the eye a little bit and the nose. Don't want to get too detailed. All right, neck coming through, so let's find her shoulder. Look at our shoulders moving in through here to her elbow, and then wrapped around this other male figure, and through here, and then on over. And so again, this lima bean, look how he takes you on this slinky kind of journey as he jerks this figure up and over. Here's the line moving over. So to get with the buttock, look how the shoulder here, I'll make it darker in the buttock. Kind of a line diagonally, but look how the journey he wants us to go to get there. So it's not a straight line. It's on a real long, linear kind of journey that's pretty exciting. And through here, and we feel the belly up and through here as well. That's the rib cage, little tip right in through there, and then belly on down. Buttock region, and then we'll kind of come on over to the leg and through here. And so sometimes I'll make that a strong little angle, but I could turn it, soften it up if I wanted to with the thigh and through here. I'll go a little faster. This leg, this back of the leg kind of ends up with the buttock mostly. That tells me the length, and through here, and the other leg is going to wind up back in through here. So let's give that a little bit more expression. Sacrum right in through here with a little bit of the butt bone, or that's the sacrum, a little bit of the split of the buttock right in through there. Again, I don't want to get too detailed. I always try to have to say, okay, what's going on? Design line, just look, that's the flow. Everything's flowing this way, and then we go back that way. So designers, really think about letter forms. Think about simplicity and beauty with respect to your designs and how you could sketch out for your clients in the future. Some of our best graphic design students really are pretty good drawers, and they understand that what drawing could do for them. It could give their design practice a sense of elegance and beauty and urgency that they don't necessarily could get right behind, or right in not right behind, but right in Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever they're doing. So That's just my take on that. I'm not a graphic designer, but I do teach a lot of designers, a lot of them, and the best ones are the ones that embrace drawing, not because they have to. I mean, they do have to, but also because they just have a want to learn and push. So look again how we'll darken this in a little bit. Look at that lima bean just start to come on out right in through here. I'll make the back of the buttock a little stronger in through there. So again, it's also about getting your 10,000 hours of practice in of whatever it is you want to be great at, whether it's soccer or guitar. I play a little decent rhythm guitar, some solo bits and pieces, but nowhere near as strong as my visual work, which I've got. It should be because I've got all this time in. So there she is through there. A pretty roughed in gestural rise. I could kind of finish out the hair a little bit and put this back hand up. Go a little bit higher. Maybe I could bring her down. Go up a little higher here. And just finding her rhythm. Even the fingers here, thumb to there, hub of the hand coming on down, and back in towards her hand a little bit where she's at, and through here. And this kind of sketching is great for cafe drawing at bars or cafes or wherever you see people congregate. So we've got a little reclining figure here. I'll push this over a little bit. You can see that. Okay. So she's reclined a little bit. So the major thrust of the pose is here. I'm going to make some marks here. What are we doing here? Come on. There it goes. Okay. Here we go. Is here, moving over, head tilted downward, right? And so I won't draw the start of the head on this one. So she's kind of here, moving, back moving over in this direction, right? Up to the knee. And both the legs kind of move in this direction. It's kind of the back leg and then the front leg. Knee to knee, I'll kind of dot it here and here. It's kind of right there and on over like so. And then here's her shoulder, elbow, and then down to where her hand is going to be right in through there. So now we go and say, okay, let's look for the head running through here. And so forget about all the complexities of all the hands. He's giving her sympathy, looking at her, and let's get just the faux profile of the head. Get the cranium in through here, jaw coming down, and then we'll work on the line of beam. Forget about the arm for a moment. Sometimes you have to delay gratification, meaning draw through things, forget through things. I can see that, I can see this. I could go all the way down to the buttock, or I could kind of wrap around the belly region, tuck that in, tuck that out like that. It gives her a little, that extra kind of pooch, and breast form would be about right. And through here, tucked underneath, buttock. That's where she's sitting down. I'll make a little bit darker line coming up through here. So I'm just feeling gesture, and it's got a little bit of volume. It's not a heavy kind of volume. We'll get into that at later dates. But there's the thigh coming over, and I'm just thinking about gliding through and being mindful where things fall. This knee is higher and it's to the right. This one's to the left a little bit as she's coming over, like through, like so. Calf region in through here. And of course that leg is going to fly over this way. It'll be cut off a little bit, and this leg will disappear. Sometimes I do follow just a kind of a clean rhythmic outline. I don't try to get bogged down into it. Forget about detail. Heavy detail. There is some detail, of course, but don't get bogged down in too much of it. It's a balancing act. And there's a slight contradiction going on, I understand. But detail at this stage of the game can be your enemy. I'm not looking at the color of her skin or the detail on the shadows or the highlights or the glistening velvet of the clothing, the jewelry. I'm just looking for the working inside out, the movement, and just this action volume and gesture of the model. And then she's got, see, I could bring this in a little bit, or I could bring this over, bring that over a little bit. Not too bad. And then the hand sits right in through here. Sometimes instead of going from the shoulder down, I'll draw the hand first. Shoulder tends to work in through here, and so his arm covers up, so it's a little bit harder to see. But I think this breast form, it feels about right in through there and on down, bringing her shoulder down here, then up and through and on in there. There we go. Okay. I say him, that might be a second female that was clothed. Okay. All right, so let's go to this winged creature here. Let's take a look at what's going on in here. So again, the first movement is really long line from the head. Here's kind of the profile of the head of the face, and then it moves in this direction way on down through the center of the spine, and the bottom of the buttock I'm going to feel like is through here. I'm just feeling this to that long line. If I want to keep going through the buttock, through the split of the buttock, the middle of the leg, and then the knee is probably I say, about right there. Let me bring this out so you can see this a little bit further. So it's probably about right there, calf on down to the heel, and the foot goes, back in space. So I'm feeling like the buttock sits here. It's really kind of blocky, and then the action from the leg over to where the knee is. Look at this triangle this makes between the center of the buttock, this knee, that knee. I'm looking at that for scale help. And then this leg really curves on out. It's almost like it's broken, but it's not. It's just beautiful movement by Rubens, and he moves over this way. And then we'll start to get the shoulder coming over, and I can make this head even higher. We'll get it caught up in here a little bit. So the chin gets a little hidden over and through here. Here's the shoulder line, roughly higher, and then we'll move his shoulder down through and on over, and there's his hand in through there. So, all right, so we've got that movement of our proportions as good as rib cage, as lima bean. So, which way is it expanding, and which way is it contracting? So it's contracting where I'm drawing now on the left. Look how that squeezes in like a tube. This is a tube around. Squeezes in here, belly pooches a little bit because it has to. And here's the bottom part. So the buttock, the angle is here. It's going back in space that way. And so this side of the model, our figure, is in expansion, expanding along and contracting in this way. So we'll curve the head a little bit through here, eye line, tip the nose in through there. Again, we don't want to get bogged down too much detail through. I'm going to eliminate the wings on this one. And then the arms coming through, elbow, and just get a little, flesh out a little bit of the movement of the figure. Elbow in through here. Keep it loose, keep it flowy. The lines are what make it happen. This curve of this against this coming in, which makes kind of a ball there, right? Moving down to the hand, and then the arm can be, the hand can be through there. It's holding, looks like some kind of knife, and then we don't see much of the back. I can kind of see it in my photograph right in through there. The hand comes over with the arm kind of holding the knife in through there. So the leg is raised a little bit. Here's where I'm shooting for the knee, center of the hips right in through there. See how this turns a little bit right in through there? There's the sacrum right here and right there. I mark it. And then we'll start to bring this leg on over. Just keep it really loose. I'm going to have to make this knee longer, which is fine. So see how this is short? So I'll make this longer. Bring this calf on over. Really curved. And I just follow. Let's look at the flow of that foot. The arch of the foot, then down with the toes kind of coming out. Just follow that beautiful sort of Rubens flow and through there. And then lastly, so we've got to make the leg longer. So the foot's here. Maybe it's a little big, so it's okay. Could adjust that later. And see where this leg, this heel ends. So when you miss it, this is a great teaching moment. See how I missed it? I need to bring it down. That's fine. You don't need to erase and freak out. No big deal. So you want to keep the spirit of this movement. So don't lose it. Don't bring the leg over here. Just make it. We'll make it in my drawing longer. So here's the leg. Here's where the joint is, roughly in through here. Bring that over. Calf. Roughly through here. And then we'll bring just the movement of all that down through the Achilles heel to the heel, right, and then up and over, and there we go. Now we have our foot and our toe. So, again, don't worry about making mistakes. Worry about not correcting them. That's more of the game. Is worry a little bit more about not correcting your mistakes. No big deal if you don't see them always. All right, let's go on to another one here. Let's see what we've got in store. All right, so I want to move to some, let's do this little child here. He's pretty adorable. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger here. There we go. I think you can see that better. It's a nice pose too, by the way. There we go. All right, so let's put this child in gesture. All right, so we move him across. So he's looking up and he's kind of tilted over. So the movement of his head does this. So we have his head here and kind of a bean, its own bean shape, and through here. And the hair starts to curl out. We just want to get the flow of that hair moving in this direction. So he's moving here, and then we have the true center of his head's actually right there. So we have our eyes moving here, eye line, the nose, and through here, the head curled, and then move back, and his ears pretty low. So I'm just getting an indication, symbols and dots and dashes for our models. Features for now. We don't want to go into a lot of detail. You've seen some of the other drawings I've done, and you can get really detailed after that. So the neck moving in through here, and so the whole figure does this. It moves in this direction, right? Really pulled over. I'm going to feel and think the buttock is about right in through here, the bottom part. So he tilts up and over. Shoulder movement really kind of comes almost tucked underneath the chin, moving in this direction to his elbow, up and over, hands probably right in through there. I say probably because I might miss it, and we're going to keep working on it until we get the proportions right. We're using our perception and our observation to judge what we have through action in terms of our scale and proportion. So, you can use signing and measuring and all that. I think it's fine for some people who need that. It's a technique. I don't use it much because it slows me down, but I've got enough intuitive experience under my belt that I can correct almost any problem I need. But if you don't, then you can certainly measure if you want to. So, all right, so we've got his hand through here. So everything is kind of moving in this direction for the chest underneath. Here's the center over through here of his abdomen. And then now we'll feel the movement of the knee here. That's the long line. And then this leg moving back over. to the foot, and then the back leg and through here to the knee and on over. And then this foot wraps around kind of like so. So it'll bring a little bit slight more definition. See, I'll play with the little contour line. If I have more time, I'll play more, but you get to see the idea of where I can dig in and make that a little darker. That turns dark. We'll flip him over, flip his leg around through here. We're just feeling out the gestural components of our model. That's all we're doing. We have a lot of time where we can correct and adjust as we need to. Bring back at the back leg. And through here, and that's the foot. Looks pretty good through there just for now. And we'll work a little bit of this rib cage up and through. And there we go. Let's keep on going. Alright, so we get to some photographs of our own university, our model Brian Baxter here. So let's work with some poses here of Brian. So we've got a nice sweep working with the model. He's really sweeping in this direction. So here, where the shoulder could be here, right? And then the hip line in through here. So this is like the end of the shoulder, into the shoulder. This is the hip to hip, like so. We could bring it in like that if you wanted. So you can sort of see where feeling our alignment being through. I'll bring it up just a little bit through there. So it's a little slightly different approach. The knee on down to the leg. Get it over to, I judge knee to knee, so look how much lower the left knee is, about right in through here. Use that as a landmark. You can use ankle to ankle, elbow to elbow. Those certainly help too. So the elbows here are about the same. So let's go ahead and attach his head on pretty quick. A lot of students will, notice where I'm marking the chin. I'll mark the chin. A lot of students will put the head up here. They always think that you have to have a long neck view. Well, the neck gets squeezed in perspective depending upon our point of view, since we're just slightly looking down on the model nose line, and we've got jaw coming in through here. Center of the sternum on over to the pubic region into here, and we'll bring his, see, I need to bring it here. Elbow and arm over, hands going to be right in through there. And then we're going to bring him down and over. Elbows are about the same horizontal plane. Then on over to his hands. Fingers even have a direction. Thumb, index fingers, and all the other fingers, I try to move and just give an indication of a flow. Try to make it lively. Try to make it, always be making it lively as best you can. You want to make the figure stay alive in the pose. Very, very important. All right, let's go on to another one. So he's tilted back a little bit towards us. So that can be a little tricky. So I'm going to put the head here. I'm looking at the profile of the head first, the kind of the face line, if you will, and the head's here. So here's the actual top of the head. It's kind of a block, like so. I'll put his head back, eye line, nose line, side plane of the head, ears pushed back and about. So it's squeezed in. So this one's a little tricky. I'll show you one thing, is that we're looking kind of on, since he's tilted towards us, that we're looking down on him a little bit. So there's the top of his form. It's like a box right in through here. And so I can bring his hand up and over like so. Hand right in, hand's going to be in through here. He's going to be twisted over. Then we can get in to have some fun Shoulder in through here. I'm going to delay the shoulder for a moment and get into the back. This movement versus this movement. You guys see that? Bring this around and over to where I think his buttock is going to be. Right in through there. This is a hard pose in the beginning. Here's where I think his buttock is going to be. And you can't see because his forearm is away, but the split of the buttock is probably right in through here. And then we'll move on down to the leg. Get that action of the leg, the length. And it kind of curls on around. Kind of looks like this leg of the last Rubens with the winged one we did. And through here, maybe it needs a little bit more space. We don't want to cut them off. In through here, maybe a little bit longer. Through here, and then this leg, knees a little lower in through here, moving on down to where his ankle sits there. Alright, so we can bring this through. And so I'll kind of finish up just the gesture of this leg a little bit. Give it a little bit more definition in terms of an action drawing. Once you put too much definition in an action drawing, it's not an action drawing really anymore. It becomes more volume drawing. So I find the heel point where it touches the ground at a little bit of an angle. This is kind of a triangular wedge for now with the foot right in through there. Notice how I made it larger. I can sculpt it or draw it down a little bit actually. And we've got the chin in through here, chest coming over, and now I want to put this shoulder in, and so it's attached on top of the broad part of the back. We'll move the action through to his elbow here, then on over, down to his hand, and through here. And since it sits on top, I can go a little darker. It seems like it's really dark, but if I did a long-term drawing, I could put value over that, and all this extra line would disappear in through here. There's the action of the arm. Pretty stocky in through there. Side plane of the buttock. We see a little bit scooting through, and then the leg coming over. The joint right about through here. So you want to keep this flow of that leg, that back leg. You want to keep that flow. See how it flows through way on over. It's further over. Look at the distance, the space, the negative space between. And so then we'll put the calf on a little bit, and then squeeze down the soleus to the Achilles heel, and then it's pretty much a flat kind of view of the sides of the foot there. And then I'll go and just put a little extra emphasis in the head, just to give that a little bit more definition coming out, back in through here. Here's the center of the back, pushing, curving around. It winds up right really here where the buttock is. And then we'll just finish this out. Joint of the elbow and through here, and then we curve, whoops, curve over. Uh-oh, there we go. We'll close that out. Sorry about that. And then we kind of curve on over through here to the forearm, or elbow, and there we go. Let's go on to another. So definitely feel free to draw with me, repeat it, draw over, and then you'll find your own models to draw from in your classes, my classes, or wherever you're at out there in drawing. So let's start. We'll start with the flow of this pose. Start with the head, kind of a classic front oval, slightly tilted to the left, not by much, but slightly tilted. Nose line down, slight down turn of the mouth. Neck moving this direction through here like so, and then the shoulder movements could have been through here. And then we can get long line of the abdomen. So it looks fairly straight, but we've got to get some movement into that lima bean. And so feel this chest in this direction moving, and then feel the rib cage on this area coming down through here. Here's the hip line right in through here, here versus here. It's really strong. Here's the center of the form, the sternum. I'll mark it right in through here where that little shadow is, in between the pectoral, down, belly button, and then slightly kind of over that way. So what we see in terms of volume, then this gets moved in this direction through here. So here's our lima bean. It's pretty, there's not a lot of expansion and contraction in this pose. So we move the arm through, elbow on over, and see the beauty of this pose, from the elbow over, it kind of goes right in through to the index finger like he's shooting a fake water gun, and there's the hand and through there. I don't think we see the other arm. And then we'll move down to this back leg on through, knee, to here a little bit, to the knee, then on over to the ankle, and through there. Maybe that's a little short and a little bit longer. And then we'll move this knee's a little bit lower. Yeah, kick through. There's a leg in through there. Bring him up. So we can tighten this up a little bit, or define it actually a little further. I don't want to get into too much tightening. So we'll go a little faster. I'll show you how fast you can go at this and keep this really, really moving. Make it quick. Through here. You know, it may seem like I'm out of control, but I'm actually pretty controlled in through here. I'm just working my way through the gesture of the pose. And through here, this will come over a little bit. Down. Just get the feel of the leg, foot coming through. Now I'm back over. Okay. All right, last one. One more here. So he's crouching a little bit, but he's got some active arm movement. So, you know, when I look at a pose, I have this little dialogue like I'm talking to you personally now, but it goes on in my mind, but it goes on pretty rapidly. And it's not necessarily so cognizant, but I am looking for a spirit to the pose and to make sure that I can get that spirit. So I tend to get this sort of view of the head first here. And then we're going to push, shoulders are here, and look how it just pushes that arm. That arm just wants to keep on trucking that way. And so does this one. It just wants to keep doing this. So look at that design line. Look at that long flow. And then everything now pushes back. So look from the chin to the neck. Look how far it pushes back to this line, to where his buttock is. So it pushes all the way back. There's a rhythm here, and then we pick up this long line, which sketches to about the knee, right in through here. So the swoosh here, swoosh there, and then we get a slight curve to where his foot is. The head might need to be a little bit bigger, but that's okay. We can always adjust it. In this triangle from our foot, we get a little bit here. So we get this. We get this coming down. Yeah, and I'll probably have to make his head a little bit bigger in a moment. You'll see. Okay. So we get this feeling. We get our lima bean kind of coming through here with this buttock. See how I'm drawing through, as it, you know, you can see through, and that's exactly what you want. So we get this leg or the knee in through here. It starts to come out, curve a little bit. And over, so we get this toe crooked a little bit. So let's look at that line of being, how far he's pushed over. Let's reposition now his neck and his head a little bit here. Here and through here. There we go. Shoulders dipping down now. So we'll bring his arm down a little bit. Move it up and out, like so. Bring him through. And we can bring the shoulder, attach the shoulder onto the rib cage area, and then we're coming through with the arm on over. Just wants to keep on coming index finger there, and then kind of the thumb mark in through there. So we'll bring the back of the rib cage over, and buttock down. Just kind of moves over that way, gets into that knee. So see how I can refine, even my action I can refine from my first initial exploration. So I won't have quite enough space to finish that out. This back leg, that's fine. Let it just flow that way. And then I'll bring this up over here. So here this might be a little longer. Tuck that over like that, heel and coming in through there. Foot's kind of a wedge in this position like so. And there we start to see the action, emerge a little bit. Then later on you can even put tone, background tone on your models a little bit. If you want to get a little bit more jazzy even with your action, you can. You can make them look very aesthetically very nice if you want. You could follow a little shadow line through here. This over. You could put some modeling like so. Okay, I think you get the idea. All right, so I'll keep doing some of these so you can get to see more examples of action. And then of course later on in the summertime and beyond, I'll be doing these lectures even slower with different materials. We'll be using a lot of different medium materials, so you get to see the exercises in all kinds of different approaches and materials. Okay, thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and I'll see you next time with more drawing. Take care.